Everyone thinks the HP Victus 15 is the obvious budget gaming laptop of 2025. But here is the thing. If you just grab the cheapest configuration, you will probably waste your money. After 3 weeks of testing this thing in real games, editing workloads, and everyday use, I found out the Victus 15 is kind of a trap, unless you know exactly what you are getting into. I pushed the Intel and RTX versions through Cyberpunk, Apex, Fortnite, thermal tests, and even battery drain on a plane, and the results were nothing like the marketing would make you believe. So let me show you what nobody tells you before you hit buy. Before we dive into what I discovered, quick heads up. If you are already half sold on the Victus 15 and just want the best current price, I will leave a link below. But seriously, stick around, because the exact model you choose is the difference between a killer value and a total regret. So, why did I even bother with the HP Victus 15? I was looking for a reasonably priced gaming laptop that did not feel like a jet engine or a space heater. My older budget laptop could barely hold 60 FPS in Fortnite. The fan screamed non-stop, and the battery died in what felt like 45 minutes. I wanted something under $1,000 that could handle 1080p gaming, light video editing, and still be portable enough to toss in a backpack. I kept seeing the Victus 15 everywhere. Ads, forums, people saying it is the best budget gaming machine. But I have been burned by budget gaming laptops before. Great spec sheet, terrible real-life performance. So I bought the Victus 15, specifically a mid-range configuration with an Intel 12th Gen H series CPU, RTX 4050, 16 gigs of RAM and a 512 gig SSD, and decided to treat it like my daily driver for 3 weeks. Games, work, travel, everything. First test. Build, screen, and day-to-day use. The Victus 15 is very obviously a budget chassis, mostly plastic, a bit of flex in the lid and keyboard deck, but it does not feel cheap to the point of scary. The keyboard is surprisingly comfortable with decent travel, and the trackpad is fine. Not MacBook level, but fully usable. The 15.6-inch 1080p 144 Hz screen is where it gets interesting. Yes, 144 Hz is smooth for gaming, but the brightness and color are just okay. Around 250 nits and a mediocre color gamut means if you are a creator who cares about color accuracy, this is not your dream panel. But then, for gaming and general use, the fast refresh does make a huge difference compared to a 60 Hz panel. Then I hit it with what most of you care about: gaming performance. I tested at 1080p using performance mode, plugged in. In Apex Legends on high settings, the RTX 4050 version hovered around 110 to 130 FPS. Fortnite on competitive settings was easily above 160 FPS, perfect for that 144 Hz screen. Cyberpunk 2077 on high with DLSS balanced sat in the 60 to 70 FPS range, which is impressive for a laptop at this price. But then, when I tried the cheaper GTX 1650 and RTX 3050 based configs that HP still sells in some regions, things fell off a cliff. Cyberpunk dropped into the 40s. Newer AAA titles needed medium or low to stay smooth. And suddenly that 144 Hz display felt wasted. So on paper, Victus 15 is a gaming beast for the money. In reality, the performance is wildly different depending on the exact GPU. Of course, raw FPS is meaningless if the laptop melts, so I looked at thermals and noise. Under sustained gaming, the CPU hovered in the mid-80s Celsius, and the GPU in the mid to high 70s. That is warm but not scary. However, the fans do get loud in performance mode. Not unmanageable, but if you are gaming in a quiet room, everyone will know. Switch to balanced mode and things calm down, but then you lose around 10 to 15% FPS. And here is where it gets interesting. The cooling is good enough for the 4050 or 4060 variants, But when I tried a lower spec model with only one stick of RAM and a weaker GPU, it still got almost as loud, just for less performance. That is where the value equation starts to crack. Battery life was my biggest disappointment, but also not surprising. With a 52.5 Wh battery, Intel H-series chip, and dedicated GPU, you are not buying this for all-day unplugged use. Doing light work, YouTube, and some browsing at 50% brightness, I got around 4 to 5 hours. Turn on the DGPU for gaming, and you are looking at maybe an hour and a half. So if your idea of portable is gaming in coffee shops without a charger, the Victus 15 is not that. On the flip side, for everyday stuff, it is actually pretty solid. Web browsing, Office, 20 Chrome tabs, Discord, and Spotify, it stayed responsive. I even edited a 1080p video in DaVinci Resolve. Scrubbing was smooth. Exports were acceptable, though 4K with effects did start to push it. You can also upgrade the RAM and SSD pretty easily, which is a huge win for longevity. But then again, the base models often ship with just 8 gigs single-channel RAM, which absolutely kneecaps performance until you upgrade. After all that testing, here is the most surprising thing I discovered. The HP Victus 15 is not really one laptop. It is two completely different products hiding under the same name. If you get a configuration with at least 16 gigs of dual-channel RAM and an RTX 4050 or better, this thing punches way above its price. It competes with more expensive Lenovo LOQ and Acer Nitro models in real games and sometimes wins. But if you grab a cheap Victus 15 with a GTX 1650 or RTX 3050, 8 gigs RAM, and a slower panel because it is on sale, you are basically paying for the Victus name while getting last-gen performance that will age badly. I spent hours comparing benchmarks, thermals, and real gameplay across configs, and the pattern was clear. The chassis, cooling, and overall design are good enough. It is HP's configuration tricks that make or break it. So if you are thinking this seems too good to be true at the price, you are half right. The marketing is hyped, but with the right specs, the value is real. Just know you are trading off battery life, premium materials, and color-accurate display for raw 1080p gaming power and upgradability. Now that you know the Victus 15 is either a steal or a trap depending on the configuration, your next move is simple. Check the exact specs before you buy. I will drop a link in the description to the versions I actually recommend, with updated pricing, so you do not accidentally grab the weak config and regret it later. Bottom line, who should buy this? If you are a budget gamer, student, or casual creator who mostly plays at 1080p, is okay being near a wall outlet, and wants the most frames per dollar, the HP Victus 15 with an RTX 4050 or 4060 and 16 gigs of RAM is a fantastic value. If you care a lot about battery life, premium build, super bright or color-accurate display, or quiet operation, you should probably look at something like a higher-end Zephyrus or a more balanced productivity laptop. For everyone else, the Victus 15 is not the perfect gaming laptop of 2025, but configured correctly, it might be the smartest one your wallet will ever meet.